It's Wednesday, November 14th. A Supreme Court bench led by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi has said it will hear review petitions filed against the Sabarimala judgment in open court on the 22nd of January next year. The court clarified that there is no stay on its September 28th judgment, which allowed women of all ages entry into the Sabarimala temple. The review petitions, live law reports, rely heavily on the dissenting judgment of Justice Indu Malhotra to contend that constitutional parameters of rationality cannot be blindly applied to matters of faith. The review pleas also question how the Supreme Court could entertain a writ petition filed by an association that does not even claim to be believers of the Sabarimala deity. Also, that a petition under Article 32 can be filed in the Supreme Court on religious matters only by core devotees. There were violent protests in Nilakil and Pamba on days the Ayyappa shrine stayed open following the Supreme Court judgment in an effort to block women from entering the temple. The left government in Kerala blamed the Sangh Parivar for what it said was organized violence. The Chief Minister had said, "We have intercepted audio messages where Sangh Parivar groups have told their people to dress up in black and come posing as Ayyappa devotees to Sabarimala." The Kerala government has said it is likely to convene an all-party meeting to discuss matters relating to Sabarimala. The main opposition party, Congress, which has taken opposite views at the national and state level on the matter, has reportedly urged the Pinarayi Vijayan government to convene a meeting of all parties before the start of the Makaravalaka pilgrimage season. It's not very often that one sees the chief electoral officer of a state, tasked with the conduct of polls in his jurisdiction, become the big election headline. Well, SB Shashank, the chief electoral officer of Mizoram, which votes on the 28th of November, is the target of local ire, and following protests by civil society groups demanding his removal, a demand backed by the state government, the Election Commission is now considering his replacement. So what are the protests over? SB Shashank has been accused of taking a pro-Bru stance. In 1997, ethnic violence forced thousands of people from the Bru tribe to leave their homes in Mizoram. The displaced Brus took refuge in Tripura, and now they are spread across 7 refugee camps on the Jamui Hills. Multiple attempts at repatriation took place, including earlier this year when a repatriation agreement was signed between the centre and states, but very few have been able to come back. Now, a little over 11,000 of these Bru tribals are registered voters. They want to exercise their franchise from the transit camps they live in, but the state government wants them to travel to Mizoram to vote. Bru voters have been casting their franchise from relief camps like they did in the 2014 Lok Sabha election for the one seat in Mizoram. There were protests even then. Now, when the Mizoram electoral rolls were being revised in September, the chief electoral officer clarified that identification slips can be used as valid documents by Bru migrants to get enrolled. Days later, the principal secretary of the State Home Department contradicted him, saying identification slips can only be used for repatriation. The Election Commission saw this as obstructing enrollment of new Bru voters. Shashank alleged interference by the Home Department and the principal secretary was transferred. Another flashpoint was the State Home Department seeking an explanation from the electoral officers on why 40 companies of central forces have been demanded for poll deployment. In the last election, only 28 companies of central forces were deployed. Political parties reportedly accused Shashank of being anti-Mizo and puncturing the state's enviable record of holding peaceful elections for decades. Following days of speculation over whether the RBI Governor will resign and ahead of a crucial meeting of the Reserve Bank of India board on the 19th of November, described by former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram as the day of reckoning, Patel, news agency PTI reports, met Prime Minister Modi. And the meeting has reportedly resulted in a thaw. CNBC TV18 says that both the central bank and the government could soften their stance on key flashpoints. The RBI, the report said, is likely to let some banks out of its prompt and corrective action framework, allowing them to lend more. Now, there are 21 public sector banks, and currently 11 of these banks are operating under emergency measures, the prompt and corrective action framework of the RBI that restricts fresh lending. PTI reports there are indications the RBI may create a special dispensation for lending to small and medium enterprises, but it was not immediately clear if an agreement has been worked out to ease the liquidity situation for non-banking finance companies and the RBI parting with a substantial part of its surplus. The government is reportedly of the view that the RBI is sitting on excess capital and must transfer some of it to meet fiscal targets. The death toll in the California wildfires has touched 42, making it the deadliest in the state's history. At least 150,000 people have been displaced. More than 7,100 homes and other structures have been gutted since the wildfires began last Thursday. Celebrities like Gerard Butler and Miley Cyrus were among those whose homes have been destroyed.
So I'm here on Windermere Road in Point Doom. Look at this. It's like a war zone.
More than 200,000 acres of land have reportedly been burned in the wildfires. Wildfires are common in California thanks to its fire-prone weather conditions, a combination of very dry and windy air and high temperatures. The National Weather Service has warned that dangerous fire weather is expected to continue in California. And finally, the man behind some of your most beloved characters, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Daredevil, The Incredible Hulk, and more, the legendary Stan Lee, died aged 95. The comic book writer and publisher co-created many of these enduring characters and in the process made Marvel Comics a formidable Hollywood franchise. Disney bought Marvel Entertainment in 2009, and Lee made cameo appearances in almost every Marvel movie. Love your morning fix? Help support our journalism. Subscribe to Scroll Plus using the link in the description.